The ferry pulled away while I was still banging on the frozen glass door of the terminal. "Daniel!" I screamed, watching my son's black SUV disappear beyond the parking lot. "Daniel, come back!" He never slowed down. Snow whipped across the empty dock, covering the tire tracks he had left behind. My phone showed 3% battery. The terminal doors were locked, and inside the pocket of my wool coat was the little silver house key my late husband had given me 32 years earlier, the key to the home my son had been begging me to sell. 12 days later, Daniel would knock on my neighbor's door and ask a question that made her stare at him in disbelief. "Do you know where my mother is?" But that night, on New Year's Eve, Daniel knew exactly where he had left me. Before I tell you how my own son came to abandon me at a freezing ferry dock, I want to thank everyone who has been returning to listen to these stories. Your support means more than you know, and if you're here for the first time, welcome. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Now, back to that freezing night. My name is Margaret Hale. I was 71 years old, recently widowed, and foolish enough to believe that no matter how angry a child became, he would never deliberately put his mother in danger. Daniel had offered to drive me to my sister Ellen's house across the bay. At least, that was what he told me. Our argument had started 20 minutes earlier. "You cannot stay in that house forever," Daniel said while driving through the snow. "It is my house. You can barely manage it. I manage perfectly well." He tightened his hands around the steering wheel. "The market is good. Sell now." "You could move somewhere smaller." I stared through the passenger window. This was the 4th time that month he had mentioned selling. After my husband Richard died, Daniel suddenly became very interested in my finances, my house, my savings, even Richard's old workshop behind the garage. Then Daniel said something that made me turn toward him. "Dad wanted me to have that property eventually." "No," I said quietly. "Your father wanted me protected." Daniel's jaw hardened. Neither of us spoke again until we reached the ferry terminal. He stopped near the entrance. "Go inside,"
he said.
"I'll park." I stepped out carrying my overnight bag. The wind nearly knocked me sideways. I reached the terminal door, locked. I turned. Daniel was already driving away. At first, I thought he was circling the parking lot. Then his taillights disappeared. I called him. Once, twice, 7 times. No answer. My phone finally rang. "Daniel," I answered immediately. "Where are you?" His voice was strangely calm. "You need time to think, Mom." My stomach tightened. "Think about what?" "About how much easier everyone's life would be if you stopped fighting me." Then he hung up. My phone died moments later. For almost 40 minutes I stood beneath the terminal awning, shaking so badly I could barely hold my bag. Then headlights appeared through the snow. An old pickup truck stopped. The driver was my neighbor, Samuel Brooks. He jumped out. "Margaret, I had never been so relieved to see another human being." Samuel wrapped his coat around my shoulders and helped me into the truck. But when I explained what Daniel had done, Samuel didn't look surprised. He looked worried. "There is something you need to know," he said. "What?" Samuel hesitated. "Your son came to see me 3 days ago." My hands stopped trembling. "Why?" Samuel looked directly at me. "He asked me whether I would testify that you were becoming mentally confused." For a moment, even the howling wind seemed to disappear. Then I reached into my coat and wrapped my fingers around Richard's old silver house key. Daniel wasn't simply trying to make me sell. He was preparing to prove I was no longer capable of deciding whether I should. And suddenly, being left at the ferry dock did not feel like an angry son's cruel mistake. It felt like the first move in a plan. Samuel did not drive me home that night. He took me to his sister's house instead. "She has a spare room," he said, "and until we know what Daniel is planning, I don't think you should be alone." I wanted to argue. My pride told me I was 71 years old, not a frightened child who needed hiding. But then I remembered Daniel's voice on the phone. "You need time to think." That sentence sounded different now. It sounded like a warning. The next morning, I borrowed Samuel's phone and called Daniel. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Mom?" His voice was soft, concerned, almost loving. "You left me there," I said. There was a pause. "I came back." "No, you didn't." "I did. You were gone." The lie came so easily that I felt something inside me change. "You asked Samuel to tell people I was confused." Another silence. Then Daniel laughed. "Mom, Samuel is 76. Maybe he's the confused one." I closed my eyes. There it was. Not anger, not guilt, calculation. "I'm coming home," I said. "You should stay with Aunt Ellen for a few days." I never reached Ellen. "I know." The words slipped out before he could stop them. My eyes opened. Daniel realized it too. "How do you know?" I asked. I assumed. "No, you knew." He hung up. That afternoon, Samuel drove me home. My front door was locked. But when I placed Richard's silver key into it, something felt wrong. The deadbolt was already unlocked. Inside, nothing looked stolen. The television remained. My jewelry box was untouched. Richard's old watch still sat beside our wedding photograph, but his office had been disturbed. One drawer stood slightly open. Daniel had always underestimated the things I noticed. For 38 years, I had worked as an administrative assistant for a property law firm. People heard secretary and imagined coffee and typing. They never understood how many contracts, wills, deeds, trusts, signatures, and lies passed across my desk. I pulled open Richard's bottom drawer. A blue folder was missing. My heart dropped. Richard had shown it to me shortly before he died. "If anything happens," he had said, "keep this somewhere Daniel cannot touch." At the time, I thought he was being dramatic. Now I understood. I searched every drawer. Nothing. Then I remembered Richard's old habit. He never trusted the obvious hiding place. I walked into his workshop and removed the wooden panel beneath his workbench. Behind it sat a sealed envelope. My name was written across the front. "Margaret, only open if Daniel starts asking about the house." My hands began to shake. Inside was a copy of a property agreement and a letter. The first line made me sit down. "Margaret, if you are reading this, then our son has discovered the truth about the lakefront parcel." Lakefront parcel? I read faster. 23 years earlier, Richard had quietly purchased 17 acres beside the old ferry route. Land everyone once considered worthless. But 6 months before his death, a development company had approached him. They wanted the property. Their latest offer had been $3.8 million. I covered my mouth. Daniel had not been desperate for my house. He had been desperate for the land attached to Richard's estate. Then I saw the final page. Richard had transferred the parcel into a trust. Daniel was not the beneficiary. I was. And there was one more condition. If anyone attempted to have me declared legally incompetent for financial gain, control of the parcel would immediately transfer to a charitable foundation. Daniel could never inherit it, even if I died. I stared at that clause for a long time. Then headlights swept across the workshop window. A car stopped outside. Samuel stepped closer to me. "Are you expecting anyone?" "No." The front door opened. Daniel walked inside carrying a leather folder. Beside him was a woman in a gray coat whom I recognized immediately. Her name was Patricia Cole. She was an attorney, and 20 years earlier she had worked at the same law firm as me. When Patricia saw me standing in the hallway, all the color disappeared from her face. "Margaret?" Daniel froze. "You're supposed to be at Ellen's." I looked at the folder beneath his arm, then at Patricia. And suddenly Patricia whispered something I was never meant to hear. "Daniel, you told me she had already signed the competency papers." I smiled for the first time since the ferry dock. Because Daniel had just walked into my house carrying evidence of his own plan. Patricia looked from Daniel to me. Then she slowly stepped away from him. "Margaret," she said, "I was told you had agreed to this." Daniel's face tightened. "Patricia, don't." She ignored him. "He said you were forgetting things, that you'd become confused after Richard died. He asked me to prepare documents allowing him to manage your financial affairs." I looked at my son. "And you believed him?" Patricia lowered her eyes. "I believed the medical letter." She opened her folder. Inside was a signed statement from a doctor I had never met. My name, my date of birth, a claim that I suffered from cognitive decline. The signature at the bottom made Samuel curse under his breath. Daniel had gone much further than I imagined. But I did not scream. I did not threaten him. I simply folded Richard's letter and slipped it into my coat. Then I said, "Samuel, I think it's time I disappear." Daniel laughed nervously. "What does that mean?" I looked directly at him. "You wanted everyone to believe I couldn't take care of myself. Let's see what happens when nobody can find me." For the next 11 days, I stayed at Patricia's empty guest cottage outside town. Samuel told anyone who asked that he had not seen me. Patricia began investigating the medical letter, and I contacted Richard's estate attorney. The truth became uglier each day. Daniel had already approached the development company. He had promised them the lakefront parcel. He expected to receive a large consulting fee once he gained control of my assets. He had even borrowed money against the payment he believed was coming. He wasn't trying to protect me. He was drowning in debt, and he had decided I was his life raft. On the 12th day, Daniel finally panicked. He went to Samuel's house. Samuel later told me exactly what happened. "Do you know where my mother is?" Samuel stared at him. "You left her at a ferry dock in a snowstorm, and now you're asking me?" Daniel's face went pale. I went back. "No, you didn't. Where is she?" Samuel folded his arms. "Maybe you should ask the people you promised her property to." Daniel froze. That same afternoon, the development company called him. Their representatives had received a letter from Richard's estate attorney. The sale was impossible. Worse, because Daniel had attempted to establish my incompetence for financial gain, the protective clause in Richard's trust had been triggered. Daniel could never receive the lakefront land. Not through me. Not through inheritance. Not at all. 3 days later, we met in Patricia's office. Daniel entered looking exhausted. His expensive coat was wrinkled. His confidence was gone. Patricia placed the forged medical letter on the table. Then she placed copies of his emails beside it. The development company had turned them over immediately after learning about the trust. Daniel stared at the papers. "Mom, I removed Richard's silver house key from my pocket. You remember this?" His eyes filled with tears. "Dad's key. No, my key." The distinction mattered. "You kept treating my home, my money, and my future like they already belonged to you. I was desperate. You left me in freezing weather. I wasn't thinking. You were thinking very clearly." He began crying. For one painful second, I saw the little boy who once climbed into my bed during thunderstorms. That was the hardest part. Revenge would have been easier if I had stopped loving him. But I hadn't. "I can forgive you as my son," I said, "but I will never again trust you with my life." Daniel looked up. "What happens now?" "The authorities will decide what happens with the forged document. And the land." I smiled sadly. "The land will become something useful." That spring, I donated part of the proceeds from its eventual sale to build a warming shelter beside the ferry terminal, a place where stranded travelers could find heat, food, and a telephone during bad weather. Above the entrance was a small plaque, "Richard Hale Warming Room." I kept the silver key, not because I feared losing my house, but because its meaning had changed. Once, it represented everything Daniel wanted to take from me. Now it reminded me that growing older did not mean surrendering my voice, my judgment, or my dignity. Daniel eventually lost his business. Several friends stopped calling him after the truth became public. He started repaying his debts. Months later, he sent me a handwritten letter. There were no excuses inside, only an apology. I did not answer immediately. Some wounds need time before forgiveness becomes something more than a word. But I kept the letter, because punishment was never what I truly wanted. I wanted my son to understand something he had forgotten on that freezing New Year's Eve. A parent's love can survive betrayal. Trust does not always survive with it. And sometimes the strongest revenge is not destroying the person who hurt you. It is refusing to let them control what happens to you next.